gives the definition of an almighty, because in that moment he is not almighty. If there are two higher mights or many, he will lose that. It contradicts the definition of God. That's why we believe in one God. And
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Alhamdulillahilladzi arsala rasulahu bil huda wa dinil haqq liyudhhirahu 'ala dini kullihi wa kafa billahi syahida. Berjumpa lagi dengan channel saya Mars Techno. Saya doakan semoga sahabat semua dalam keadaan sehat selalu. Jerman merupakan negara Eropa dengan mayoritas penduduk beragama Kristen sebesar 60%. Denominasi Katolik adalah 29,5%, Protestan 27,9%, dan Kristen Ortodoks sebanyak 3,3%. Pada video kali ini kita akan menampilkan bagaimana usaha dakwah dari Ustadzah Bostran di kampus di Jerman. Beliau mendakwahkan akar-akar atau dasar agama Islam seperti tauhid, bertuhan hanya kepada Allah yang Esa. Nah, sahabat, mari kita saksikan bagaimana usaha dakwah dari Ustadzah Bostran di kampus ini. Silahkan menyaksikan.
Which works perfectly in a design, without any error in its beauty. It could be even ugly. It's not. It's beautiful as well. How this works without any error. And if I look further, deeper, the earth. What would happen if the earth goes, and we know it, even 1 inch closer to the sun? Everything would burn down. 1 inch further from the sun, everything would freeze to death. If it stands on its state like this, one part in shadow forever, no life would exist anymore. We know it through scientists, right? Or if you look even more in detail, what are all the living creatures here? Not dead elements or bodies, the living creatures, and not from each only one. Not only one something came from one lava explosion. Even in the case of human beings, 7 billion at the same time are working without error. And this should be through coincidence. And even a minute ago, you could hardly believe me that my Samsung came out from a volcano through coincidence, which is even not working perfectly, which is even not a living creature. And in this case, might be just through an explosion or whatsoever, that the entire universe came through coincidence into being. And this is what I asked myself, that behind this, it must be a creator who understands from design and beauty, and special, who must be all wise because everything works perfectly. The fish is in the water, the bird is in the sky, not the opposite, it would die. And he must be all knowledgeable as well, how we made in such a detail which we cannot figure out till this day. He must be all powerful because to create this, he must have a power which overcomes this. And therefore, I came to the conclusion, guys, and these are questions which are mentioned in the Quran. Look at the nature examples to conclude that there must be a designer, that this cannot come just through coincidence into being. And one chapter explains what God is. And I would like to read you, it's just 4 verses, nothing special in that sense that it's too much. And it's in the chapter Sincerity. Say He is Allah, by the way. Allah implies the word God in Arabic. And it's nothing new again. It's from the Old Testament, it's mentioned in the Old Testament, the Torah as well as Allahim. Plural in the sense of, to show the respect to His Majesty, to His Majesty. Say He is Allah, God, who is one. Allah, the eternal refuge. He neither begets nor is born, nor is there to Him any equivalent. why is he one? If you go to this through thought experiments, you will come again to that conclusion that it is very difficult to believe that there are powers which are equal power, higher minds and equal power. Because if the other wants something what the other doesn't, who will win with equal power? That is against the definition of an almighty. Because in that moment, he is not almighty. If there are two higher mights or many, he will lose that. It contradicts the definition of God. That's why we believe in one God. And it's pretty much, it makes sense. And that's, if you go to that thought experiment, he neither begets nor is born. He's above it. We need to procreate each other this way. But he doesn't need it. And like pretty much the doer of this, he doesn't have to be the dad of this machine. Or nor is there to him any equivalent. Why should he look like his creation? For what reason? The doer of this doesn't look like a Samson. He doesn't need, he stays above. Mostly whatever you draw, pain or whatsoever, it doesn't look like you. Do not look, it doesn't look. Yeah, sorry for my English, by the way. So this is, which pretty much explains the essence in what a Muslim believes in terms of God. Believing in the prophets. No surprise, we believe in the same prophets as in the Bible, in the Torah, the 23 prophets, and we believe that there were way more since God sent to each community on earth since beginning the time a prophet to warn them. They had a job, the prophets. They had the job to warn them that there is a higher might, that you should reflect, that you should take into consideration that this life is a test, that a next life exists, that you will die and will be judged afterwards for all your doings, that the victim will get its right, and the oppressor will get his punishment, the day of judgment. And they warned for this day, and they had another special work to do, and this is to be examples for us, good examples. Therefore, if you look at the characteristics which are mentioned about prophets, they had all the same. They were famed before they were chosen even in their community as noble people, honorable people, trustworthy people. Even the Prophet Muhammad, he had the nickname Al-Amin, the trustworthy one, before he became a Muslim. And it doesn't make sense that God chooses someone who's a liar to tell the truth. It doesn't make sense. So people were chosen by God who were also known for the trustworthiness. And in case of Muhammad, we believe that he is now the latest and final messenger, that after him no one will come. And if you look in the past, you heard from all the prophets, and God says also in the Quran, the stories, they will never be forgotten. And indeed, these names, if you're an atheist or not, it doesn't matter. You have heard from Noah and the ark, from Adam and Eve, from Muhammad, from Jesus, from Moses. You have heard of them, even if you're not a believer. It's a story for the humankind. And and Muhammad was chronically the latest one, and after him, we never heard of any of them, of any new one. And so therefore, what they did is they documented at that time the actions of the Prophet Muhammad, and these are called Sunnah. With the Quran and the Sunnah, these are the main two sources for the Muslim to act upon. These are the sources, the proofs. If you want to prove something, you have to bring one of those. And even in the case of Sunnah, to protect, to be deceived from changing documentation whatsoever, that person has to prove the lie, the way it is narrated, and so on. It's very complex. Otherwise, you have the right to reject it. So, and the Quran, in the case of the Quran, we will come to it. I will tell you that later on. And these are the two main sources in Islam. And there we are. Actually, there you can see the Arabic. No, is the mouse not moving? Yeah, the Arabic lines. It's written in Arabic. It came in Saudi Arabia to Muhammad. He lived in Mecca during that time, in a time where polytheism was very common. That was the city for polytheism. And he came up with monotheism and said to the people that there is only one God to whom you should pray. And we believe in the Psalms, in the Torah, in the Bible, as well in the Quran. And but we only act upon the Quran, because the Quran itself, first of all, says in the Quran, God says, "Now I will take the Quran under my protection. It is the final message for the humankind, not just only for Jews or whatsoever, for the entire humanity." And the people took care to not translate it, because you can't translate something word by word. That, you know, if I give you a scripture and say, yeah, now translate it, you won't be able to translate it word by word into your own language. Information will get lost. You will have a space for interpretation. So therefore we call the translation what? Not the Quran. We call the translation, it is the translation of the meaning of the Quran. To just secure, don't rely on the translation, to not have the problem with the Bible, which we have with the Bible. Just to prevent it.
Dan Masya Allah guys, itulah usaha dakwah dari Ustadzah Bostran, menjelaskan Islam dari dasar-dasarnya berdasarkan surat Al-Ikhlas yang menyatakan bahwasanya Tuhan adalah satu, Qul huwallahu ahad, Allahu samad, lam yalid walam yulad walam yakul lahu kufuwan ahad. Jadi Tuhan itu tidak beranak dan tidak diperanakan. Beliau juga membahas tentang kitab-kitab suci yang diturunkan oleh Allah Subhanahu wa taala, yaitu kitab Zabur, kitab Taurat, kitab Injil, dan juga Al-Quran sebagai penyempurna. Dan beliau juga membahas bagaimana sifat Nabi Muhammad yang dikenal sebagai Al-Amin di kaumnya. Jadi mana mungkin seseorang yang tidak bisa dipercaya, dia menjadi seorang nabi. Nah sahabat, jika menurut kalian ini masih perlu dilanjutkan ke part selanjutnya, kami akan terjemahkan dan mereaksinya. Mohon maaf jika ini harus direaksi karena adalah peraturan dari YouTube. Jika kalian ingin dilanjutkan ke part selanjutnya, silahkan komentar di bawah. Sekian, wabillahi taufiq wal hidayah. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.